Today, the federal court to hand down its ruling in the defamation case of one of the country's most decorated soldiers, Ben Roberts-Smith. US Congress votes in favour of a plan to lift the country's debt ceiling to avert a potential economic catastrophe. Mining giant BHP admits to underpaying workers hundreds of millions of dollars over the past 13 years. And the housing market rebound continues, defying rising interest rates and signalling more pain for renters. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ros Childs. A long-awaited decision in the Ben Roberts-Smith defamation trial will shortly be delivered in a Sydney court. The war veteran sued 3 newspapers over a series of stories published 5 years ago. He claimed he was defamed by false allegations of war crimes, bullying and domestic violence. Reporter Jamie McKinnell is with me in the studio to tell us more. Hi there, Jamie. So just remind us what happened during this trial and what was some of the key evidence?
Well, this case goes all the way back to mid-2018, and that is when 3 newspapers, the Sydney Morning Herald, the Age and the Canberra Times, began to publish a series of stories which contained allegations of unlawful killings, bullying and domestic violence. Ben Roberts-Smith denied all of those allegations and sued in the federal court. When he gave evidence before the judge, he said he'd always served his country with honour, denied ever breaking the rules of engagement overseas, and he also said to be publicly accused of multiple murders left him devastated and heartbroken. Now, the publisher of the material, Nine Entertainment, alleged Mr Roberts-Smith was involved or complicit in 6 unlawful killings while on deployment, and they relied on a truth defence. So then we got to the stage where witnesses were called, and this is where things got fascinating because former and current SAS soldiers were giving evidence for both sides in these hearings, and there emerged contradictory evidence in relation to several key missions, specifically about the circumstances around deaths which Nine alleged were unlawful. The publisher's barrister said there were irreconcilable accounts that had been produced, and the truth of it was that someone had to be lying. But Ben Roberts-Smith's lawyers framed the case as being about corrosive jealousy in the SAS. They argued that his Victoria Cross put a target on his back, and they said that bitter and jealous ex-colleagues had really tried to tear him down by feeding lies to journalists.
So why is this case so significant, Jamie?
Well, there are a couple of things going on here. It's one of the longest running defamation cases. It will certainly be one of the most expensive. And the case also revealed the internal culture of the elite SAS. There were some witnesses who gave evidence about this, and one of them in particular described it as a toxic culture where rumours were rife and seemed to expand tenfold whenever there was any hint of gossip or rumour. It's also significant because of how high the stakes are here. Not only is this case going to be incredibly expensive, but you have on the one hand a very, very high profile soldier, one of the country's most decorated, very recognisable, who has gone into bat and defend his reputation. And on the other hand, you have the publisher of the material who has gone in to defend what it sees as public interest journalism, and the stories here are really being put to the test. So the stakes are high for both sides, and as Mr Roberts-Smith's barrister put it last year when he was explaining the potential consequences for him, he told the court that if Nine succeeds in this truth defence on some of the most serious allegations, it would in effect paint Mr Roberts-Smith as someone who is guilty of murder, as a violent person and as a domestic violence abuser.
So how are we expecting things to unfold?
Well, from 2:15 Sydney time this afternoon, Justice Anthony Besanko is going to read out a summary of all of his judgment and his findings, and then he'll publish the full document. It's likely that document is going to be very long and very complicated, and it's possible that Nine's truth defence may have succeeded in relation to some of the imputations or meanings here, but failed on others. So in that sense, it could be somewhat of a mixed result. This is also a civil case, we should point out, so the standard of proof is the balance of probabilities. And this is it's not about Ben Roberts-Smith being found guilty or innocent. It's about whether he was defamed and is therefore entitled to damages, or whether Nine has successfully defended its stories as true.
OK, we'll speak to you a little later, Jamie, when we have this ruling. Thank you.